on, everybody? So we have a fun review today as we're finally talking Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. This easily was one of my most anticipated movies for the entire year, which is no surprise if you know me. I'm a massive Godzilla fan. I even bought this new Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire shirt just for this review because of how hyped I was. When a colossal deadly threat hidden within our world threatens the existence of all mankind, their only hope is to bring together both Kong and Godzilla to stop them. It's kind of surreal when you think about it, but the Monsterverse now is 10 years old, starting back in 2014 with Gareth Edwards' Godzilla. But lately, I feel like the Monsterverse is truly hitting its stride and carving out a really interesting universe with the shows like Monarch Legacy of Monsters, which is a series I highly recommend since I feel like both that series and Godzilla X Kong lean heavily into building up the lore of the Titans and the Hollow Earth. In essence, so many of the elements in Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire are engineered for people like myself and others who are massive fans of the kaiju genre, embracing the over-the-top sci-fi aspects within the genre, and it's just an absolute blast. Packed to the brim with amazing, colorful spectacle, exploring more of the depths of the Hollow Earth, and finally, after so many different movies, putting a major spotlight on the Titans themselves. It only took this long for them to realize that these Titans are the true stars of the show and why we come to see these movies. So I couldn't help but smile at the sheer amount of screen time that Godzilla, Kong, and other surprise characters have in this. I leave it at surprise characters because the international trailers basically spoiled the return of this character, so I'll just leave it at that. Regardless, I want to give a massive credit to Adam Wingard for making all these kaiju feel like actual characters that aren't just here to smash things up when you need a big action set piece. I mean, there's literally at one point in the movie where there's like a 10+ minute sequence where it's just all kaijus on screen. Now, this time around it isn't a versus movie or anything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Team Kong and Team Godzilla are on the same page to begin with. It takes a little bit of time to ease in that situation. Godzilla still's a little bit fired up when he first sees Kong again, but inevitably, much like when they work together at the tail end of Godzilla vs. Kong taking on Mechagodzilla, they warm up to each other, realizing they have to take on a common enemy. That team dynamic between Godzilla and Kong is one of the biggest entertainment factors fueling the film's greatest moments, as each of them are bringing different things to the table for their team up, facing off against these foes. Even though I am very biased towards Godzilla since I've been a massive Godzilla fan my entire life, that doesn't necessarily mean I dislike Kong either, because a lot of the stuff involving Kong in the film I think is pretty great. Kong plays a really interesting role in the overall story within the New Empire, as he has a lot of major focus. Arguably, I'd even say that Kong is the true heart of the movie, since we do follow a lot of his story, feeling the pressure, taking on the brutal Scar King, struggling a whole lot, inevitably leading him and his human pals to call in some backup in the form of the king of the monsters, Godzilla. Not only that, but I genuinely enjoyed the relationship that was built up between him and Zuko, a new character to the franchise. A bit of their dynamic reminded me a lot of the dynamic in God of War between Kratos and Atreus. Zuko is just so adorable. I mean, just looking at him, how can you not think that and want to protect him as much as you can against all of these evil characters? Back to touching more upon Godzilla, I just love the way that the Monsterverse utilizes Godzilla as a character, as this imposing dominant force that always just comes in and wrecks shit then leaves. Every single time that he's on screen, and whether he's helping out Kong or fighting other antagonists, it's awesome. Even when he gets this new evolved form, which I think is one of the coolest things to come out of the Monsterverse in a very long time. This sleek purplish pink redesign of the character makes him slimmer, more agile, but he's still just as strong. That coupled with Kong going into this final battle, it's just this pure, unadulterated WWE style smackdown. I couldn't help but cheer while watching in the theater. It's just that epic. Now, when you insert things into the movie like Kong having an infinity gauntlet on one of his arms, which, by the way, one of the coolest aspects to Kong in this when the action sequences. Then on top of that, you have Kong and Godzilla running together, Kong jumping on Godzilla's back, and them jumping up in the air with the villains for this big superhero action shot. How can you not give this movie a 10 out of 10? As the Titans lead the way, the story itself, I would say, is fairly solid. It isn't trying to be anything overly complicated. Basically, the best way I could describe this, if you're a big fan of the Godzilla franchise, I would say it's in line with your usual wacky sci-fi type plot with heart behind it that's ripped right from the Showa era of the Godzilla franchise. Except in this case, it's way better VFX. Between the elements that are delved into with the Hollow Earth and Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, along with the stuff that we learned back in Monarch Legacy of Monsters, it has me me more intrigued to continue to delve deeper into this universe by and large, but especially all the stuff surrounding the Hollow Earth. The visuals of the stuff in the Hollow Earth alone and the monsters and all that stuff, it gets pretty wild. It makes you realize there's so much untapped potential here within the Hollow Earth when we get stuff introduced, like now we have the Scar King. Being that at this movie's core it is a team-up movie, you do have to bring in characters from the Godzilla franchise along with the Kong stuff, and I think that they do a good job balancing those characters. I like the mix that they brought back here for this while introducing newer characters. I'm enjoying that we brought back Gia to continue to explore that relationship built up between her and Kong. I felt so old realizing that that was the same actress that played Gia in the original movie. She's just much older now. I felt most bad for Rebecca Hall. I don't think her performance was necessarily bad or anything. It's just a large percentage of her lines in the movie are very clearly big exposition dumps for the audience. Brian Tyree Henry continues to be one of those actors I find so underrated. Every single time he's in a movie, he usually is pretty great. But my personal favorite of the human characters was Dan Stevens. Dan Stevens was the one that knew exactly what type of movie he was in, and he fully embraced it with his character. The Hawaiian shirt and the humor. Now, I must admit, when it comes to the Scar King and the fact that he is being billed as the big bad, he's all over the marketing, I was expecting a little bit more from his character in this. He certainly has some pretty cool moments, and he's brutal here and there. I'd be lying if I didn't say I was a tad bit underwhelmed overall, especially by the time we get into that third act and he's just getting absolutely cooked. A much cooler, more imposing threat is the other antagonist of the film that they have done a horrible job hiding from the marketing. Shimo has been all over the merch, the toys, the international trailers. I mean, Shimo is even on this shirt at the very bottom, so I wouldn't necessarily describe Shimo as a spoiler going into this. Shimo, though, was extremely intimidating. They were badass. I love their power set. Currently, right now, I think out of all the monsters that have been created for the legendary Godzilla films, I think they're probably one of the coolest ones they've created. Outside of probably King Ghidorah, it's probably the toughest foe that Godzilla's faced so far in the Monsterverse. You see that loud and clear in the showdown between everybody in the third act, between everything that's built up before it. Just pure adrenaline-fueled kaiju mayhem, and I loved every second of it. Taking everything that we know and love from the Monsterverse to the next level. I already know there's going to be a lot of people online trying to compare Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire to Godzilla -1. And if you're a fan of the franchise, I think you're well aware of the fact that we can have both of these franchises going on at the exact same time. If you want the more grounded, serious toned Godzilla, Godzilla -1 and the Toho stuff are perfect for that. But if you also just want a wild, over-the-top entry where giant monsters fight each other, I think Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire brings exactly that. It's all about balance. There's a lot of different types of Godzilla out there. There's a lot of different movies. But now for my thoughts on Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. Make sure you share your thoughts down below. What did you think of the film once you get a chance to check it out? Did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? Share all your thoughts down below, because part of the fun is having that conversation with you guys in the comments section. And thank you guys, as always, for checking out the videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure you like on the video and also subscribe to the channel to update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. But next time, I'll see you guys later.